7:03. Roll call of directors, please.
Barnes.
Here.
Bauman.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Gorman.
Here.
Kaiser. Maple.
Yes, ma'am.
Thiel.
Yes.
Tomcheck.
No.
Zebro.
Here.
And student rep Carly.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, moving on to item 4, approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mark, a second by Jess. Any questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Item number 5, approval of the minutes. 5A, special board meeting of education, October 23rd, 2018. Everybody should have received those minutes. If you have no questions, I would seek a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kelly and a second by Mark. Any questions?
We're gonna do A and B, correct?
Okay. Any questions on the 2 sets of meeting minutes from October 23rd? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll be abstaining.
Okay, motion carries. With 1 abstention. Okay, item 6, the public forum. The public forum provides the public with the opportunity to ask questions about or address issues included on the school board, meeting agenda. General operating rules of the public forum will be determined by the board president once the number of people wishing to speak is identified on the night of the meeting. Prior to addressing the board, please clearly state your name and address and share with the board what agenda item you are speaking to the board on. Is there anybody in the audience tonight that would like to speak? I'll ask again, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Okay, we will move on. Item 7, discussion and possible decision, approval of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards contract for permanent superintendent search.
Motion approved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Corey and a second by Mike. Discussion? Okay. Roger, would you? There you are. We could have spoken publicly. Okay, yes, Roger, if you'd like to give us a little background, that'd be great.
We just voted.
I'd like to get a little bit into it.
Well, in talking to John, we talked about trying to combine, if you were gonna go ahead with WHP, to combine it with a little bit of a planning meeting as well. So I brought materials with you. I know you have a long agenda, so I'll try not to take too much time. Several of you are on the board. I recognize faces from 5 years ago
Yes.
when I was up here.
Thank you. Question in regards to that contract.
Sure.
So I looked at the hourly fees, do we set a not to exceed in that contract, or is it just open-ended?
Last time we had a not to exceed.
Because I didn't see a not to exceed in that contract, it just listed the hourly rates.
Roger, is that something that would be in this proposal?
That is an option, yes. And I think the contract that was sent was the standard contract. I do However, have copies with me of the agreement, just make sure I have the right one here. Where we can write in the not to exceed.
Oh, okay.
And so you might want to use this one. We ask that you do get the signatures, yours and the clerk's, and then the two, send them both backs to Washburn. John Ashley will sign it, and then
Sure.
you return it one. Let me go through things, and that's a good point that was brought up there. It kind of depends on the scope of the services. If we look at the timeline, and we just kind of talk about that, this is kind of the standard that I've used for the past 6 years that I've been doing this. Just a little background, since there are a couple of new board members. I spent 40 years in education, 20 teaching mainly in Holman, as an administrator in Bangor, which is east of La Crosse, 16 as a middle high school principal, and 7 as a superintendent. And I retired in 2012, and I've been working with WHP for the last 6 years doing the searches throughout from central to the western part of the state. The way that has been very successful in doing them is we come and we do like we're doing tonight is a planning meeting. We then post the vacancy. Everything we post now is basically a nationwide search. The computer age, every current superintendent in the state will get an email blast about the opening that you have. It'll go to all the normal places, but we belong with 40 other states that have school board associations, and when one of them has an opening, it automatically goes to the other 40 states as well. Quite frankly, you may get some out-of-state applicants, but the majority of your applicants are going to be, from the state of Wisconsin, maybe Minnesota, and quite frankly, kind of from central Wisconsin. That's kind of the past history. We do what we call the next step on here, a stage 2. And that is, we develop a brochure. You might remember we do a brochure that highlights the positive things about the Mosinee School District and community, because we're trying to attract, in most cases, probably 2 people to come to this area, whether it's a male or a female. Good chance that they'll have a spouse, so they're looking to relocate to an area, so we try to highlight why somebody would want to come to this area. We also develop a couple essay questions and put that as part of the application. And that varies by district. I can't remember what we used here last time, but you may have an operating referendum coming up, and you want to know if they have any experience, running referendums. One district I did had a high minority population, so they asked a question about prior experience to working with minorities. That's something that we'll think about, what would be tailor-made to Mosinee to ask a couple of those questions. Review of applications. All the applications are sent electronically to our state office, so it's not a burden on your staff who's busy with a lot of other things in the district. We collect everything, and then once the deadline is in, we will provide a link to each of the board members. If you want paper copies, that can be done through, people here at work, but we provide a link with all the application materials. You'll see everybody that applies. There are some firms that will pre-interview people and and give you 6 names to interview. We believe that it's important that you see all the applicants. So, because nobody knows better the fit for Mosinee than you 9 board members. Once you have that information for about a week, then we'll have a meeting where we review those applications. And I will come with you and share the information I have had. We have 6 or 7 consultants that work for WASB around the state. Once I see the list, I email my cohorts, ask them for their advice. Do you know this person? Have you experienced them? And then we come and we recommend you interview 6 first round. And it's usually just with the board. Before that, one thing I missed over the focus groups. Last time we did do focus group, it's been 5 years since we've done a search here. 5 years is kind of the normal going rate for superintendents length now. It used to be a lot longer. But 5 years is kind of the average now. We move around a lot more than we used to. I would recommend we do focus groups again. Last time I met with elementary people, middle school, high school, support staff. I did it with the board, and I'm not sure, I think we had a community group, I'm not sure if we did or not. We gather that information, I share that with the board. What are people looking for in the next superintendent? Characteristics. It's not about the past superintendent, it's not about the interim superintendent. It's looking down the road, what direction do people want to go? What are they looking for? I'll prepare a report for you that lists comments. I won't identify people so they feel, I won't say a 3rd grade teacher said this, or Brent said that, or something like this. It'll be comments that people feel free to share their opinions. Because you want people to be honest with you. Again, we review applications, interview with the board. Once we decide on 3 finalists, and I recommend 3 finalists, I know some districts have gone to 2 finalists, but the danger with that is during the process, if you're putting all this time into here and you have 2 finalists, and then before the second interview, 1 drops out. And you've promised people that you're going to have some finalists, and you're left at 1. So it's good to have 3 finalists. We will do a complete background check on them, educationally, criminal, and financially. Every once in a while, you hear about somebody that embellished a resume. We want to find those things out. The second round of interviews, this is one area where I'd like to see us go and involve more people than we did last time around. Basically, the view of the board last time is that, it's our job to hire the next superintendent, and we're going to do it, which is fine. We'll tailor make the search however you want it. But I think the more people we can involve, the more of the stakeholders we can involve, is better in the long run for the candidate that is selected. So I would encourage in the second round of the finalists, a system where we do a round robin, and I've used that just about every place I've been for 6 years, where on that final night we bring the candidates in the middle of the afternoon, and we give them a tour of the district. And we have 3 different people. Maybe we start one candidate at the elementary, 1 at the middle school, 1 at the high school. We have a building and grounds person, maybe the business manager or principal, somebody, take them around. And then we have a little snack and a little chance from the rest. And then in the evening, starting at whenever the board can meet, that varies, we have 1 candidate meet with the board on their second interview. Candidate 2 B would be meeting with another committee, and it's the size of Mosinee. I would recommend that be an administrative team. Your principals, your directors, curriculum, special ed, things like that. And then the third candidate would be at a public forum. You have a great auditorium, theater presentation here. We could use that or you know, cafeteria or some large area. And the way the public forum works is I, as a consultant, would be the person in charge of that. Basically what I do is would introduce the person and say, this is John Burnett. He's currently superintendent at so-and-so, and he's going to tell you a little bit of why he wants to be the next superintendent at Mosinee, and then we open it up to questions. And we advertise that, we put it on your Facebook page, we get it in the newspaper, and anybody in the district's invited to attend that. Any teaching staff, anybody, staff of the school, anybody in the community can come to that. I've had as many as 100 people show up at those. I've had 40, 25. And then we provide comment sheets for those people. And they can say, what are the strengths of this candidate? Are there any concerns that you have? Is there anything you want the board to know about this candidate? And then we collect those and we share that information with the board before you make a final decision. We do the same thing with the other committee. Now, some people have asked that the administrative team to come in and actually give their input in front of the board or have a spokesman. Those are things we can do down the road if you go that way. But I would recommend that change from the process we did before. The ultimate decision is the 9 board members. I mean, it's the biggest decision that you'll make. And you're the only one that has all the information. You've seen all the completed application. You've seen the background checks. You've sat through 2 interviews. So you have, the other people have a snapshot, but you have all the information. Internal candidates. If you have internal candidates, we encourage that they follow the same process. If you do have internal candidates, once they declare that they're a candidate, then we don't include them in any of the focus groups or interview committees. There's a couple other things on your site visit, final selection. People really don't use the site visit much anymore with the internet and Google and things. The one thing we want to avoid, we want to vet the candidates as much as possible. The last thing I want, the last thing you want, is we get down to our final candidate and then something pops up. Because once we name those 3 finalists, everybody's going to be trying to find out something about them. And rightfully so, the staff wants to know who's their next boss going to be. You want to know who you're going to be working with. So it's important that we really do a good job of vetting those final 2 candidates. That said, we can help with negotiating the contract. We provide a resource guide that has sample interview questions that I'll work with you on. It has how to post the meetings. You'll have the copy of your brochure. It'll have comparatives of salary and benefits and so forth. One thing we encourage the board is to be thinking, before you get to that final round of interviews, you should have had discussions about what kind of package you're going to put together. So that you don't sit there that last night and identify somebody and then look at each other and say, oh, we haven't talked about that yet. So somewhere along that. The timing is good. The opening will be over the school board convention when a lot of candidates are looking and talking to consultants and so forth. Our legal team is available to review your contract. If you haven't updated the contract in 5 years, you may want to have them look over that. We'll help with press releases and working with the things. That's a long way to answer the question about not to exceed.
What's your?
What I explained here, this process, if you went through this whole process, I would be comfortable with a not to exceed of $10,000. That would include everything, the posting, I mean, you can look at those hour things. It would not, it would have to have prior board approval before anything above 10,000 could be spent.
That answers my question.
Yeah.
That makes me more comfortable to have a not to exceed.
I think that was the same number we had last time.
I think it probably was right there too last year. And it takes in all the travel, all the advertising,
Do we need a different motion to add that?
probably should.
Should have to.
The travel time to put it out, that $100 an hour, that's
What?
standard, $100 an hour for travel, that's a standard.
The standard, yeah. I don't set the fees, they do it the state office.
No, it just seems,
Do we have to vote? No.
Could you just not put an amendment into the motion, Matt?
I don't know how that works, so I'm looking for.
A friendly amendment? I believe you can do that. As long as it's okay with the people who made the motion in the second.
You okay with
Fred?
it?
right, what of it?
No. I'll rescind my motion.
There you go, I'm just gonna resend that.
Mark, you fine? Okay.
We need a new motion then?
Want to make a new one, or you want me to? Go ahead. I'll make a motion to approve the WASB contract to include the language not to exceed $10,000.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion by Matt, a second by Mark. Further discussion and or questions?
With the $10,000 without approval, correct?
Yes.
Goes over, yeah.
So, I wasn't around last time. so
Okay.
The public forum process, was that conducted last time?
No,
No, so that's a new addition.
that's a new addition. The last time around, the board was a sole interview in both the first and second round. I think maybe Brent Zimmerman was included in the second round. I think that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just asking your opinion, I just think it's kind of.
Well, when we did it with the way you were first described, the way to set up now, we did actually have, we actually opened it up and had like the calling tree people to come and, you know.
Oh, you had to call.
Yeah, we had to call a couple groups.
He's asking if he thinks people are.
Oh, people come? Not unless you ask them to.
Bakers does.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if you
Just
wanted
start
to have,
calling.
you know,
yeah.
30, I mean, what'd you have at Westby last year, John?
For the forum,
Yeah,
probably had 60 people.
60
They were
people.
very-
I think you're gonna have people show up for that.
because you'll have teachers and support staff, you know, in addition to.
I'll go under, if I remember you say I'm gonna go under.
Key, I just-
Publicly grumbling right now, taking ads
It's
aloud.
the decision of the board. The board will get impact from you in terms of what happens at the forum. The board meetings, some representative from that other committee can then and share with them who their first, second, and third choice is. And then the tough part becomes when the board begins to deliberate. Sometimes it's easy when all three committees are on the same page.
Agreed,
If
yes.
they're not, it becomes far more challenging.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
One thing I would ask that the board, the focus groups are scheduled for January 10th, so I will have to work with administrative assistants and the principals about getting those focus groups together. The community focus group, and John's been through that, we asked, I found the best way is have the board submit like 3 names apiece. And then we send, and I have a copy that I'll give the assistant, is we send an invitation to them. And we try to get a cross-section. We don't want all elementary parents, for instance, or all teachers, all people that have kids. We want some business people, we want clergy, we want a real cross-section of the community.
Hey, Roger, I think it's important because part of your questions are going to that stage 2 application, come out of that focus group, correct?
Right. Yep. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to spending a lot of winter nights up here.
Okay, item 8, special presentation, therapy dogs.
All right. We've been waiting a long time.
You didn't bring one along?
Yeah. We tried. It's been the wrong time of year. There's hunting and other things going on.
Good recreation.
This is something that Katie and Josh and I have been really excited to present to you. We've probably been talking about this for probably a little over a year. But the idea is, with the increased situations and problems we're having with social and emotional challenges in our school district as well as nationwide, I don't know if you've noticed that, but they talk about that on the news quite a bit with the increase of the social and emotional challenges. The idea is we would like to bring a therapy dog into our district and own a therapy dog to help reduce some of the social and emotional challenges.
Right, and Nate touched on this a little bit, but the real reason why we want to do this is we've made a huge push with the Marathon County School-Based Mental Health Consortium. We're a member of, I think there's like 9 or 10 schools within that consortium right now that we work with on a daily basis to come up with new ideas and ways to solve the mental health issue that we have, not just in our community, but in Wisconsin and in the nation, probably the world really. But our goal is to provide a lot of different avenues for students to be able to deal with mental health concerns. So this would just be another piece to the puzzle. One of the things that we'll talk about is how therapy dogs can de-escalate tense situations, whether that's just random chance in the hallway to make somebody smile so that they don't do something that they were thinking about doing, or if it's somebody that's already a little unhinged and causing some problems, that the dog can sometimes step in and de-escalate that pretty quickly. So, one of the other things that I have linked on here is our seclusion and restraint data that Mary Zimmerman typically presents this every single year. So Brady, if you just want to scroll down to, I think it's like slide 6 and 7, 7 and 8. So this is our data from I think this is 16, 17, and then we also have the 17, 18 data. But if you look at it, the number of times we have to either put a student in seclusion, so put them somewhere and keep them kind of locked away for their own safety and for the safety of other people, and the number of times we have to physically restrain them with somebody in the building. 33 and 34 at the high school in the last or at the elementary school in the last 2 years. And then it's about 6 to 10 at the middle school and about 5 or so at the high school over the last couple of years. So that's a number of times that students are being restrained physically by a staff member, and we believe that getting a dog coming into our buildings is going to decrease that number, and that's our big hope is with this experiment that you'll see fewer numbers on that report every year.
So it all kind of started with us inviting in the Wausau Police Department. Officer Jeff Schremp and Nick Stetzer came, and we met with them at the high school. And they just kind of gave us feedback. So one's at Wausau East and one's at Wausau West, and they gave us some information on how successful it's been for them. I believe Badge, the dog at East, has been there just over a year, and then Theo started this fall. So they came in and shared some experiences, and then they actually took their dogs throughout the buildings.
It was really cool to see the dogs come to our building. When we talk about changing a climate and culture, I mean, it was immediate. When the dogs were at the high school, the kids were all smiling, and you can see a picture over in the cafeteria. They wanted to know, what is this dog? They wanted to pet the dog. And Katie's going to share a story at the elementary school in a little bit. But Officer Schremp just mentioned that at the school he's at in Wausau, that the students are more receptive to positive solutions when there is a challenge at the school. They see the dog as part of the school, kind of They have it in their yearbook, actually. Their dog has a yearbook page. And the top part, I'm not gonna go over it, but it just shows, the UCLA health study shows that actually having animal-assisted therapy, it lowers the anxiety of people and helps people relax, provides comfort for people, and can provide just an escape or a happy distraction. Me, for an example, if I have a tough day and I'm driving in my driveway and I see my dog Combo's always excited to see me, jumping up and down and can't wait to see me. And no matter how bad my day is, my day just changes instantly. It's the same thing with Drayton and Adeline. It's the same thing if they have a bad day and they see Combo, it changes immediately. And that's the same thing that happened in our buildings when the dogs were there.
So, Officer Schremp came over, Stetzer, who is Badge. Stetzer came over with Badge, which is the black dog, walking down the hallway with one of our friends. He came into the main office first, and I wanted to show him around a little bit, maybe take him up and down the hallways, and then I first went to Mr. Soderberg's office, and there was a friend in there, and I had told him that I had a visitor, and he had 4 legs, and could he come in and visit? And the student had just been removed from a classroom, so he had literally destroyed the classroom, pretty much threw things were ripped up on the floor, and so Officer Stetzer went in there, asked if it was okay if he brought in Badge went in there. This student, Officer Stetzer, kind of knew what he had done, so he asked if he wanted Badge to help him clean up the classroom, and the student immediately went with him. And they're walking down the hallway, and he picked up the entire room. Badge was in there just kind of milling around, sniffing at things, but the student picked up the entire classroom. Other friends were in the hallway, and like Nate said, like it just put a smile on their faces. The student was very calm, wanted to hang out with them more and stay with him, so within seconds, the dog had changed his behavior. And working with a student in the past, Mr. Soberg, I probably would have worked with him for a good 30, 40, maybe even an hour in order for him to de-escalate and get back to that classroom to fix what he had destroyed and then get back to class. So it was just a really positive experience. The other 2 things listed, there's an article in the city pages, Nate has a copy for you, and it talks about the 2 officers and their dogs, Badge and Theo. They do incorporate that they actually visited the Barron School District with the unfortunate situation and the missing student. Both officers said just to have that dog present takes the kids' minds off of certain stressful things that they may be thinking about or experiencing. The city pages did this article kind of based around North Central Healthcare because they're looking at getting one. They even visit those facilities in the community. Same thing, all of the residents there, they kind of, you know, are a magnet to the dog, so that they go over to the dog, they're happy, even staff is happy. Just very positive articles on therapy dogs in schools and other community businesses.
So we had to do some background research. Obviously, we talked with the Wausau Police Department and how they picked their dog, what type of dog they wanted, but obviously we needed to do some of our own background research. So Nate and I actually went and visited the Cronin-Wetter Veterinary Clinic and talked to their vet about what type of dog should we have for our school district.